Good evening. I'm Pedro Hazel Jr.
I'm Steve Ferguson.
Welcome to another edition of Sportslines Plus. Tonight, we'll be talking about the Mets getting Juan Soto and their chances of getting Pete Alonzo after the Soto signing, plus the Jets and Giants in the NFL Draft Sweepstakes. If you like what you see, and we all know you'll like what we see, you hit the subscribe button with the internet address is youtube.com/@Sportslines Plus. Again, that's youtube.com/@Sportslines Plus. And I think you'll like this show tonight. In one of baseball's biggest signings ever, the Mets made the biggest splash, signing outfielder Juan Soto, the most sought-after free agent probably ever, for $765 million over 15 years.
Amazing.
15 years.
Let me tell you something.
Wait. One more thing.
Go ahead.
Well, we could probably explain that later. And my God, it's like, what do you say?
I say phenomenal signing by the New York Mets. The last great player, and I will say great, that the Mets ever signed for a contract, not of course of this extent, but Mike Piazza is probably the best player we had that we've acquired in the past. We had acquired Carter and of course Keith Hernandez back in the 80s. They were close, but there has never been in the history of the New York Mets a player of Juan Soto's caliber. 15 years, $765 million. He's 26. He will be here most likely until he's 41 years old. I will tell you right now, the Mets, if they get some more pitching, might be the team to beat in this division if they get a couple more pitchers.
Oh, by the way, one thing about that signing, the Mike Piazza signing, when they extended his contract, he had the longest contract. It was $91 million over 13 years.
Wow.
Over 7 years. Over 7 years.
That's
in 1999, 2000.
And in those days, that money was a lot of money.
And that was the biggest contract ever at the time.
Right, until this one.
And
this proves that Steve Cohen is a man of his word. He had said to us from year one, he was going to try to get the Mets to the top. He has proven it to us by spending this kind of money for a phenomenal player like Juan Soto. While Juan Soto may not be the best defensive player, he, in my opinion, is Rod Carew with power. And if you remember Rod Carew, what a great singles hitter he was.
Oh, yeah.
Juan Soto is that plus power. Last year for the Yankees, he hit 40 home runs. Now, assuming the Mets can re-sign Pete Alonzo, Lindor and Soto and Alonzo, the three of them might hit combined 100 home runs.
Yeah, that's very realistic. Yes.
Very realistic. And I can't tell you how thrilled I was the day that we signed.
I was thrilled too. I mean, I was just floored. I mean, totally floored.
So was I.
So, I mean, I couldn't believe the Mets got Juan Soto. And it was a friend who let us know about it. And she and her friends were celebrating on the bus.
Well, I'll tell you, I had wanted the Mets to get this guy for 2 years. I had told one of my friends, we are going to get him. The Yankees, to their credit, offered him a 16-year deal. Very similar money. But what I heard from a good friend of ours just last week is there was a situation that came up where Soto's family was insulted by the Yankees.
Oh.
They had invited his family to be in the press room area, but they didn't allow his grandmother to sit there.
Oh, man. How can you do that? How in the world can you do that? But I mean, a younger person,
Yes.
Grandmother?
His grandmother was there, and they wouldn't allow her up to the press box area. And I'll tell you something. God bless my grandmother. She was phenomenal to me, as I'm sure Juan Soto's grandmother is to him. But you cannot insult family members like that.
And you can't assume anything. You know what they said about assuming.
Yes, you make an ass out of you and me.
Yeah, well, we don't want to get into that part, but I know what you mean.
Yeah. The
Yeah.
truth of the matter is, that's a signing that you would assume the Yankees were going to make.
Oh, yes. Oh,
and
yeah.
to their credit, they offered him 16 years for a little less money than the Mets, but the Mets really pulled all the stops out.
Mm-hmm.
They wined and dined Juan Soto. They treated him like royalty, which he is in the baseball world. And let's just say, if you're a Met fan, thank God.
Right. And also, too, he also gave him free access to the press box.
Yes. And he'll probably have that for life.
Yeah.
Which he deserves.
Yes.
Juan Soto is the kind of guy, if you like him, you put up with some of the showmanship, a little cockiness maybe, but when you watch this guy hit and you see how professional he is as a player, wow. You put Lindor in front of him in this lineup. Lindor had 30 home runs last year, actually 34. So you add him with his professionalism and Juan Soto with his. Please, Steve Cohen, you've got to sign Alonzo to add to this.
Oh,
this lineup could be absolutely phenomenal with Pete Alonzo. Pete Alonzo had 34 home runs, and it was a down year for him.
Mm-hmm.
He had 240. What could he do with Soto hitting in front of him?
Yeah, but then also,
40
too,
home runs easy.
But also, too, the home runs he hit in the Milwaukee series.
And ironically, the home run he hit was off Devin Williams, who was one of the best closers in the National League. And he is now with the Yankees because the Yankees decided Clay Holmes was not the answer.
And the Mets got Clay Holmes.
The Mets are going to use him most likely as a starter, not as a reliever. And if he fails in that role, he'll be the setup man for Diaz, and that's a great fallback for the Mets.
Yeah.
Devin Williams is a terrific closer, but the Yankees only have him guaranteed for this season only.
Oh.
So if he does not re-sign with the Yankees totally lose out on this deal. But Devin Williams is a terrific closer, and he will definitely help the Yankees. The Yankees, to their credit, after the Juan Soto fiasco for them, have improved their team.
Right.
They got Cody Bellinger recently, a big upgrade at first base.
Yes.
Devin Williams, who's a terrific closer. They are gradually building.
And that pitcher from the Braves, former pitcher.
Oh, yes, that's right. He's also an important part of what they did, Max Fried. An 8-year deal for Max Fried. That's a lot of money for a starting pitcher. $216 million. They are counting on Max Fried to be the best number 2 pitcher in the game. And I have to agree with them. Rodon was not all what he looked to be. He had a good season, 15-9, but he was not consistent in the postseason. Max Fried has not had a great history of postseason pitching, but you can definitely argue that he is a better pitcher than Rodon.
Yeah.
So the Yankees are trying to make this up, that they lost out to the Mets. But who expected the Mets to pull this off?
Yeah.
I know I did not. I hoped it was going to happen. Now the Mets need pitching.
Yeah.
Sean Manaea.
I was going to get
back.
Yeah, I was going to get to him. What happens with? Do you think the Mets? I say he's still on the market.
He's still in the market. Now the Mets have been talking 3 years with him. I say give him his 4 years.
Yeah.
This guy was great for the Mets.
Yeah.
Severino, I'm sorry we lost him. He went to the Sacramento A's. But Manaea, the second half of last year, was the best pitcher on the Mets rotation.
Yeah.
By far. He developed a Chris Sale style of pitching. It works for him. He might even be better next year now that he knows how to pitch that way.
Yeah.
So what the Mets better do with him, they better re-sign him. They tried to get Garrett Crochet. Great if they had been able to get him.
Yeah.
Left-handed ace pitcher for the Red Sox. They gave up 4 prospects for him.
The Red Sox. Wow.
Yeah.
For the White Sox. Ooh.
Yes. Now, that's probably why the Mets couldn't get him. They would have had to give up.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And the Mets are trying to rebuild it.
And they have done a good job of rebuilding it. They don't want to give it all up.
I understand.
I get it. But they need to sign Sean Manaea. And I'd love to see if they can get this Japanese pitcher, this Roki Sasaki, 23 years old, with a 100-mile-an-hour fastball, a slider, and a split. Sound familiar? Senga, only 7 years younger.
Oh, by the way, do you think Senga will be ready for when the season starts.
I hope so. I think he will be. We haven't heard any bad reports about his arm or his shoulder, so I'm hoping he'll be back. If he is back, that's definitely going to help the Mets, but it's a little uncertain what part of the year he'll be back.
Going back to Pete Alonzo, now we always said that we said the Mets really need to get him.
Yes.
Now, if hopefully they won't, but hopefully if they lose him, who do you think they should sign afterwards?
That's a very good decision, very interesting decision, because the guy that I thought they were going to go after, Christian Walker, just signed a 3-year, $60 million deal with the Astros. So he's off the board now. The choices that are left on the board are not so enticing to me. You've got Anthony Rizzo, and he's old now, and he's not the player he was with the Cubs. You've got Carlos Santana, a good player, but 39 years old. And you've got Paul Goldschmidt, great player, borderline Hall of Fame talent, in my opinion, but he's 35 or 36.
Yeah.
So I think the Mets have backed themselves into a corner now.
Yeah.
Because there are a few teams that would want Pete Alonzo, the Seattle Mariners, who desperately need offense.
I was just reading a little today, researching it. I was saying that the Nationals, I've been hearing teams like the Nationals might be interested.
That's another team I've been hearing.
I hope he doesn't go to the Nationals.
I hope not either, because then he'll be in our division hurting us.
I know he'll.
And the Nationals, people sleep on them. They are getting very good.
Yeah.
They are going to contend. I'm talking about they might win about 80 games. They have a young team. They got some star players. C.J. Abrams is one. And that outfielder they got last year, they brought up from the farm system. I can't remember his name right now. But they're on the verge of turning the corner. They get Pete Alonzo, that will definitely help their process much quicker. So if I'm the New York Mets and if I can sign him for $250 million, I would do it in a heartbeat.
For 8 years?
Probably. Maybe. I don't know if I'd give him 8. Maybe I'd give him 6.
6?
Maybe 6 with the last 2 years optional if he performs well. He's 30 years old. So if you sign him for 5 or 6 years.
He's right at his peak.
He's right at his peak.
Right at his prime.
Sign him now for 4 or 5 years. Give him a couple of years as the option if he does well. And get him over the $200 million mark. Because that's what caused him not to sign last year. The Mets offered him, if you remember, a 7-year deal, $158 million. Now that sounds like a lot, but Brandon Nimmo got over $200 million last year, and you can argue Pete Alonzo is probably
much
a better
than
player.
Brandon Nimmo.
So I understand why Pete didn't sign that contract. This is a homegrown Met. This is somebody you've got to take seriously.
Oh, yeah.
I want them to sign him, and I want him to do it quickly.
Yes.
Because somebody else, whether it's Seattle or the Nationals or some other team in Major League Baseball, is going to say, you know what? He's 30 years old. He can hit 40 home runs a year. I'll get him. And I don't want the Mets to lose out on him.
No, I really would not want the Mets to lose Pete Alonzo. Yeah, granted the 240 and all of that, but still.
34 home runs.
Yeah, 34 home runs, yeah.
And that was a down year for him.
Yeah.
This is a guy who has hit 40 home runs, if I'm not wrong about this, 5 of the last 6 years. You're not going to get anybody more consistent than this guy.
No.
Would I like to see him hit 260 like he used to? Yes. But if he gives me, and I think if he's with the Mets, you can say 40, 260 next year.
Yeah.
Because he'll have protection in front of him in that lineup that he's never had before.
Yeah.
So I think all the more reason you sign this guy. And Manaea, I give him 4 years, 5 years, and I say, finish your career with us. You're 32. You're at the peak of your career. You've come together as a Met. This is probably the best we've seen of him in 5 years. Sign him. Because the farm system does have young pitchers. They have Brandon Sprout, who we've heard a lot about, who throws 100 miles an hour. They've got a guy named Blake Tidwell, and they have a guy named Mike Vialli. He'll probably be up this year, one of those 3 guys. But none of them are proven commodities. Sean Manaea is that, and you need to sign him now.
Yeah.
Don't wait around, because a lot of these good pitchers are off the market now. Snell is gone, Fried is gone, and before you know it, Manaea will be gone.
Oh, yes. So the Mets have to stop dilly-dallying.
They can't mess around with these two.
They got Soto, and that's great.
Yeah, that's great. But you need more to win. We need a better bullpen. We need more starters. And we need Pete Alonzo back in this lineup.
Mm-hmm.
And I will say to Steve Cohen, you did a great job getting Juan Soto here. You and David Stearns finished the job.
Yes.
Because if you do that, you can win the division. Not the Braves, not the Phillies. Us.
The Mets,
How about us winning that division?
Yes.
We got Juan Soto, and we got him for a reason. That's to win a championship. I know we may not do that because the Dodgers acquire everybody who's a star.
Mm.
But if we're the second best team in the game, then we're going to give that team a hard time.
Oh, yes.
I want to see us get to that level.
Okay, from the very, very highs to the very, very lows, the Jets and Giants, we all know, are having miserable seasons.
Absolutely.
Totally miserable seasons. Now, what does that mean for them in the NFL draft?
Well, we thought it meant they were going to be getting one of the better draft picks, but I'm not sure that's going to happen.
Yeah.
Because the Jets have traded away a lot of their prospects for veteran players. They might be in the top 5, top 10 in the draft, but they're not going to be 1 or 2.
Mm-mm.
The team that possibly will be that is the Giants.
Yeah.
Because they are having a horrible season.
Miserable. And that's putting it extremely well.
As bad as they've had.
Horrific.
Years. Horrific. That's a good word.
Horrific.
Mm. Now, the Giants, we all know what they need. Oh, my God, do they need a quarterback?
Oh, Lord.
Should they have gotten Jaden Daniels last year?
Yeah.
YES, you should have.
Yeah.
And you blew it.
Yeah.
He's a star quarterback for my team, one of my 2 favorite teams, the Commanders. You could have had him. Your GM did nothing. Mm. Your coach wanted him, and the GM did nothing for him. And what I found out is that the quarterbacks this year are not nearly as good as what they were last year.
Mm.
Last year, you had a choice of Jalen Daniels, Caleb Williams
from USC.
Yep, Bo Nix.
Bo Nix, yes.
Who plays for Denver and caused Wilson to be out of there. He's had a great year. So what did you do in the draft? Nothing. You had 6 quarterbacks to look at. 6.
Mm-hmm.
And you could have acquired one of them. And instead, you kept Daniel Jones for 3/4 of the season. They need to get rid of Joe Shane tomorrow.
Sure.
And you know what? Brian Dable, you could join him and get out of here too.
Yeah.
That organization and the Jets both have awful front offices.
Mm.
And if I were running the Giants, all 3 of them would be gone. Mara, give up your ownership of the team today.
Mm-hmm.
And then I get rid of Dable, and then I get rid of Shane.
Mm-hmm.
And I start over.
Yeah.
And the Jets, I could do the same thing with them.
Yeah.
Woody Johnson, I'm so sorry Joe Douglas was shafted out of his job. I still believe he's the best GM in the game, but he was fired. Then you need to get rid of the other guy, the quarterback, the coach, Jeff Ulbrich. Start over. Both of you need to start over.
Exactly.
And until we do that, the Jets and Giants are going to be pathetic in the NFL.
Yeah.
Pathetic.
And by the way, the Giants are 2-12, tied with worst record with the Raiders.
Ooh.
But then with the Jets, the thing with the Jets are 4-12. 4-10, excuse me.
Yeah. The Jets actually may have put themselves out of that race.
They're like 7 teams. There's besides the 2 teams, the Giants and the Raiders are 2-12. There are 5 teams, 5 that are 3-11. The Carolina, Tennessee, Jacksonville, Cleveland, and New England, the Patriots.
Who knew? Huh?
Who knew?
But what that shows you is every team is capable of having a great season.
And besides the Jets being 4-10, the Chicago Bears are 4-10.
And so they got off to a good start this year.
Yeah. So the best the Jets are going to probably pick us like maybe at this point. Mm-hmm. Now, there's 2 more weeks in the season.
Right.
Anything can happen. But if the season were to end now, they'd probably pick maybe 8th.
Yeah, 8th or 9th. But here's the good news. most of the time, these picks, especially the first couple, do not work out as well as you think they're going to.
Mm-hmm.
I'm
Yeah.
an advocate of doing your homework as a scout.
Of course.
Stephon Diggs, who played for Minnesota, you remember him. He's out right now with a serious ACL with the Texans. He was a 5th-round pick. He is a star wide receiver in the NFL. So what does that tell you? You don't have to draft at the top to get top-notch talent.
Yeah.
What you need to do is scout your tail off as an organization. Do your homework. Your scouts are very important. I don't think the Jets have had good scouts for a long time. All right, you got us Garrett Wilson. He's a very good wide receiver.
Yeah.
Sauce Gardner, I have mixed feelings about. He's played well his rookie year, not so well this year. But you have to draft better. You have to do your homework. You can find talent in the 3rd round, the 4th round, the 5th round, the 6th round. Tom Brady was a 6th-round pick. Terrell Davis was a 6th-round pick. You can't tell me if you do your homework, you can't find talent.
Yeah.
And I think both those organizations are lazier than hell. They need to get it done and send their scouts to every college on the planet to find what they need.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, since we mentioned New England, we mentioned the New England Patriots. Their former coach, Bill Belichick, is coaching the University of North Carolina. What a come down.
It is a come down. It's very strange to see a former successful head coach who won 6 titles,
6 Super Bowls,
come to a point where he's coaching a college team.
Oh, Lord.
Now, I think that speaks to who he is as a person.
Yeah.
Because you would think somebody who's won 6 titles to be snapped up immediately.
Yeah. It's like, why is nobody, I mean, who wouldn't want to get Belichick?
Right.
I mean, it's like, geez, I was wondering why he was out. He was always out there. He was out in the market like this.
His personality did him in.
Yep.
People know he's a great coach. People know he's won championships, but I'm a big believer that your personality and your attitude when you go for jobs like that is extremely important. Bill Belichick, for all the great coaching he has done, is known to be a control freak.
Yeah.
And that's part of the reason he didn't get a job in the NFL. The Atlanta Falcons were very interested in getting him last year. But I think what they probably did, they probably talked to the players and said, do you want him as your coach? And I think the answer was a resounding no.
Total, in other words, basically a total jerk.
Right. I mean,
I'm talking about Belichick.
The other sad part about this for him is he was catching on to the best record ever for winning coaches. Don Shula has that record. He may never get a chance to do that again because if the NFL doesn't hire him in the next couple of years, he finishes 2nd to Don Shula.
And he's 72.
He wanted that award.
And he's 72 years old.
And he really wanted to have that record. But I don't think he's going to get there. Do I think he'll do well with college kids? I really don't know.
Well, I think with college kids are usually more malleable, so to speak.
Possibly.
College kids.
Right.
NFL players, when they get the big money, forget it.
Right. College kids are interesting because they're so mature now and intelligent with everything that goes on. Their contracts, their careers, everything. He may have a very difficult time relating to these guys because he's never coached at the college level. His father did, but he never did. So, and being 72 years old and being stuck in your old ways, I don't know if that's a good mix.
Yeah.
But we'll see. We have to give him time and see how he does things and whether he figures out what mistakes he may have made as a pro coach.
By the way, we want to give our condolences and rest in peace to Ricky Henderson, the all-time base stealing champ, the best leadoff hitter of all time. It's like the way we watch Ricky on TV. For A's, Yankees, even Mets. He played for Mets briefly. 1999.
Yes.
The way he would just get on base and the way he just get on, just get off the bat and then just zoom.
But the other thing about Ricky Henderson was he was a great hitter.
Yeah.
I mean, you could not hit. I saw Brett Saberhagen, who was one of the great pitchers of his day, strike him out looking. But to get him out on the inside corner, it had to be right on the corner.
Mm.
He would not swing at anything off the plate.
Mm.
He made you throw strikes. He had power. In Yankees, he had 34 home runs for them.
Mhm.
He was a terrific hitter in addition to being a phenomenal base stealer.
Oh, yeah.
It is shocking to see he's gone at 65.
Yeah.
This is a man who exercised every single night,
Mhm.
push-ups and sit-ups, never touched a weight in his entire life.
Mm.
And he's gone before most of us are even thinking about being gone.
Mm.
And that must be a horrible tragedy for his wife.
Oh, yes.
She was his high school sweetheart, and he married her.
Mhm.
So to lose somebody of his caliber and personality, and he was a fun guy,
Oh, yes, he
a
was.
jokester, a little cocky, but man, could he play the game.
Yes.
I'm going to miss seeing Ricky Henderson on TV and seeing him talk about his game. He was such a phenomenal person. And I'm so sorry he's gone.
Yeah. Our condolences to Ricky's family.
Absolutely.
For Steve Ferguson, I'm Pedro Hazel Jr. saying thanks for watching. If you like what you see, hit the subscribe button. And the internet address, again, is youtube.com/@Sportslines Plus.
And one more thing we should say, happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, because that's on the same day as Christmas.
Right. We were going to get to that.
Mhm.
Yes. Merry Christmas, Happy
And
Hanukkah,
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, Happy
And
Kwanzaa.
I thank all of you for watching.
Thank you all for watching this year. Have a good night, everyone.
Good
Happy
night,
holidays.
everyone. Happy holidays.